One of these cliches that gets thrown around very often when we are talking about these Indianapolis Colts from our fan base is the idea that there are no moral victories in the game of football. When we lose a game and I come out and I talk about the positives, whether it be something about the receivers or just the offense as a whole, the running game, maybe despite the fact that we allowed 2 trillion points on defense, I like an individual effort by certain players on the defensive side of the ball, and I bring that to you. A lot of what I hear is, listen, that's great and all, but there are no moral victories. And I'm not arguing against that. They may very well be true, but I'll tell you what there is. If not moral victories, there are absolutely moral defeats. And when it comes to moral defeats, I cannot think of one any greater than the idea of these Indianapolis Colts losing to our former head coach, sleepy Frank Reich, looking like he's about to sit on a recliner with a warm glass of milk when we go into Carolina this week. I mean, the Carolina Panthers are 1-6, and the history between Frank Reich and Shane Steichen is deep, dating all the way back to Frank Reich's days with the Chargers, whether it be Steichen replacing him as the offensive coordinator there, him replacing him as the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, or him coming in as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts post the Frank Reich era. Shane Steichen has essentially been there behind Frank Reich to clean up his mess and improve his wrongs every step of the way during his career. And in my opinion, this season has been no different. We could say what we want. The offense has been moral victories. Here we go. The offense has been night and day between Frank Reich's last year with the Indianapolis Colts and Shane Steichen's this year. And it's just hard to picture a world where we lose to the Panthers. But if I'm to be honest, if we're shooting straight here, if we're telling the truth, Colts Nation, I don't feel all that great about this football game. And I'm really like one of the big optimists in Colts media, if you ask me. So we kind of have to talk about what it is that we're looking at in this game. And on paper, the Colts have everything it takes to win, but there's just a few ingredients sprinkled into this game that just don't have me feeling great about our prospects of winning, one of which being the fact that we're somehow a 2.5-point favorite, which speaks to how bad the Panthers are. But ultimately, it's going to be up to us to look like the favorite when we go out there, because this Colts team finds a way to lose games. That's what we've been doing this year. Recently, it's what we did last year. To some degree, it's become part of the culture. We're going to have to start flipping that around. And listen, you may think the season is all gone. It's already lost. That may very well be true. But losing this week to Carolina would all but solidify that and put the nail in the Colts' coffin if they were to fall to 3-6 with a loss to this football team. So without further ado, let's talk about this game, the injury report, some of what I'm looking at going into this game, and some of what the Colts need to do to come out with a victory. I mean, we kind of talk about the same stuff every week in terms of keys to victory, so I'll try to change it up a little bit today, but we all know the Colts formula is to run the ball well and not turn it over. That's just about any team's formula to win, so we'll try to take it a little bit deeper than that. But before we do, as always, I'm going to introduce myself to the new folk. If you've already been here, go ahead, skip. I'm time-stamped. You already know. The episode's time-stamped. You could go to wherever you want to be, but my name is Justin. This right here is the Riding the Bench Colts cast. If at any point you're enjoying the video, go ahead and shoot it a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. The goal right now is to get to 2,000 subscribers. So if you're a returning listener, you're enjoying the show, you're liking the videos, and you have not subscribed yet, please, I ask that you do that. But of course, anyone that is here, just enjoy the video and please be civil in the comments section, right? Come on now. So let's start with the injury report. This is the logical way to start because even though we could look at the roster as a whole, obviously injuries make a difference on a week-to-week basis. So we already know that we're going to be without Braden Smith, without Juju Brents at corner, Lord almighty help me, and Zaire Franklin looks like he's going to be missing the game too. Now, it also looks like we may be without Blake Freeland as well in this game, who's been starting in the place of Braden Smith. Now, that right there is red flag number one, because I ask you, maybe someone knows something that I don't. who in Lord's name are we going to put out there at tackle if not Braden Smith or Blake Freeland? We drafted Jake Witt in the 7th round. He was on IR, is on IR. Danny Pinter, over the course of the past couple seasons, has kind of been that utility guy that we plug in where we need him, kind of a la like a Joe Haig, if you remember when we had him. He's on IR. So I don't know exactly who's going to be playing tackle in this game. I don't know what we do. Is it Arlington Hambright? Is that the option? Are we going to bump out Will Fries to right tackle and do Arlington Hambright at right guard? It's quite possible that this has already been revealed in some sort of media availability or something like that. I personally just missed it. The tackle spot is going to be tough. I mean, particularly when you look at the way Gardner Minshew has been turning it over, not just interception-wise, but we're talking about these strip sacks, really has felt a lot like last season when it's just he drops back, and every time he gets hit, you kind of have this justified PTSD that he's about to cough up the rock. So we're going to have to figure out what we're doing at tackle in this game, and by figure it out, I mean someone's going to have to step up. It's Saturday. There's really not much time for anyone other than who is on our roster to come in and play. Did we pull up someone from the practice squad? I mean, I know it's my job to know this information, but I just checked the depth chart for this episode, and I see what I see, right? So that's what we have going on at tackle. Not great for us. Corner. Looks like Darrell Baker Jr. will be stepping back into that slot over Tony Brown. And I'll tell you, for some reason, I don't know what it is, I kind of feel good about Darrell Baker Jr. at corner. Maybe it's just because of a lack of options. There's nothing super justified. And I know people don't like to talk about like tools. And at the end of the day, it's a production-based business. It doesn't really matter what tools you have. You either play well or you don't. But Darrell Baker Jr. is the type of guy that really has the physical tools to be a good corner if he could keep his head straight and let the mental mistakes fade to the side. I mean, you talk about that Browns game. Sure, he was getting beat a little bit, but at the same time, there was a couple bogus penalties called on him at the end of that game that we know. Obviously, we want to move on. I don't want to keep talking about those things. But Darrell Baker Jr. was a guy that was really looking good throughout the course of the offseason, training camp, preseason, all of those things. So Darrell Baker Jr. is someone I'm rooting for to step up, and I haven't quite fully given up on him yet. He's going to be someone I have my eyes on going into this game because realistically at corner, what else can we possibly do, right? I mean, last year, if you remember, there was a couple games where Kenny Moore missed in the slot. We actually took Julian Blackmon, brought him down into the slot. That's a possibility. We can move him down into the slot, get Nick Cross playing some safety, and then move Kenny Moore outside. That's not his natural position, but he's been so good this year. I guess that's an option. Certainly not an ideal one. I mean, as of right now, you have Julian Blackmon and Rodney Thomas are both top 5 safeties in the NFL when it comes to opposing quarterback rating when being targeted. So you're looking at the Colts secondary and you're like, this is a cornerback issue, not so much an entire secondary issue. Now, it does at some point become one and the same eventually because football is such a team game that if the guy next to you isn't performing, ultimately everything is kind of pieced together. It's like a puzzle, right? Everything is intertwined somehow. And this is going to be probably the worst group of receivers you can expect to face an Adam Thielen, who has been playing awesome this year, in fairness to Adam Thielen. But the idea of Adam Thielen and DJ Chark being the top 2 receivers for a team, it doesn't get much more favorable than that. But again, Thielen playing great this year, and DJ Chark does bring that big play threat, and that is where we've been getting beat, is down the field. We've just been having these lapses. Today is a day that we can't have it. That being said, against DJ Chark, a guy who is very inconsistent, it's a good day for a guy like Darrell Baker Jr. to come and get that confidence against a player like that. Let's talk about Zaire Franklin. Let's talk about Shaquille Leonard, because there was the noise about Shaquille Leonard stepping up, or rather he was upset that the Colts weren't letting him step up into a role on this defense, ultimately not letting him play much on third down. He's upset with playing time. Shaquille Leonard hasn't been playing bad, but when you compare him to his former self, it really does leave a lot to be desired. Listen, Shaq Leonard, not that you hear what I'm saying. I know you've never heard of my show. If there's ever a day for you to prove that you are still that guy. Today is the day. Ultimately, I say today, tomorrow is the day. Maybe some of you are listening on Sunday. This week against Carolina is the week that Shaquille Leonard is going to have to show up and be the life force of this defense. Zaire Franklin has seamlessly taken that Energizer Bunny type role from him. Today's the day for Shaquille Leonard to let the league know, to remind the league, to remind the Panthers, to remind Frank Reich, to remind Gus Bradley, to remind us, the fans, to remind himself that he is still that guy. Because ultimately, when it comes to how the Colts are going to win this game, it comes down to this defense. Now, we are still undefeated when we win the turnover battle. That's always the goal for any football team. That's not Colts exclusive. If you're trying to win a football game, you got to win the turnover battle. That goes without saying. But this Colts offense, averaging 25 and change per game, is averaging more points per game than the Baltimore Ravens, the Detroit Lions, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Seattle Seahawks. These are considered to be prolific offenses with great weapons in this league. The Colts are averaging more points than all of them. Defensively, we simply just have to force turnovers and win this turnover battle. We led the league, and I believe came out of the week still leading the league in strip sacks coming into this week, and we have forced plenty of turnovers over the course of the season. Carolina is averaging 18.5, or so I don't have it right in front of my face. I think 18.5 points per game this season. They're averaging 15 points per game at home. This right here is the Colts' game to lose. But ultimately, the Colts have to stop finding ways to lose, which is what the Colts have been doing. It will be the defensive line's job to make Bryce Young look like a rookie out there. And when you talk about these rookie quarterbacks, right, 3 of the top 4 are in the AFC South. You've got Bryce Young, the only one not being in the AFC South. That's who we're versing this week. You got CJ Stroud playing great for the Texans. You got Will Levis really looking like a stud. And then you have our guy who's out for the season. We don't want that to be the story. It's defensive line's job to make Bryce Young look like a rookie and not let a narrative about Bryce Young versus Anthony Richardson start. Not saying that's what should be, not saying that's even what's going to happen, but I don't even want it to be possible that someone would say, oh, the Colts don't have the rookie and the Bryce Young, whatever the fuck people would say. You know how it is. The Panthers will beat themselves if the Colts allow them to do it, but the Colts can't beat themselves, because then it turns into one of those games where somebody has to lose, right? The Colts should win. The Colts are favored to win, but will the Colts win? I don't feel so great about it, if I'm to be 100% honest with you. I always like to bring the positivity, but I don't want to come here and say, yeah, baby, the Colts are going to win, and then come out on Monday morning looking like an idiot, all right? So let's watch the game, let's enjoy the game, and let's stay with it, guys. But right now, the season hanging on by a string. We take on the 1-6 Panthers this week. So that is all. My name is Justin. This right here was the Ride the Bench Colts cast. Until next time, go Colts.